I mean, the only thing about the UK was, for me, about England, really. It wasn't more than Great Britain was Match of the Day, watching Match of the Day on a Sunday evening, I think it was, Sunday morning. No, Sunday morning it would have been. And also Subbuteo, just flicked a kick. And the FA Cup final.
I remember being so monumentally disappointed by Subbuteo when I went round to a friend's house. I mean, first of all, I don't give a shit about football, so that's a
It's
big
not a
issue.
great start.
It's not a great start, but the way that it was advertised on TV, it looked a lot more realistic.
Action-packed.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I imagine there were going to be these, and I was quite young, obviously, but I imagine there were going to be these tiny little people that you could make do stuff. And I got there, I was like, well, I didn't think they were like small people, but I imagined them to be more like dolls with working limbs that you could encourage them to move their legs.
They were tiny. They're only the size of like of a 2p, only the size of a 2p coin, basically.
And they were like weebles. They were on those little rocky ball
and
things.
The ball was massive.
Massive. Like ping pong ball size. And
Not to scale.
No, not to scale. I got there and I was just like...
Football would be great if they played with the ball that big.
I really would. I mean...
And they just had to flick to kick it. And often every now and again the ball would just bowl them over because of... like Skittles.
But also, I think one of the things that was good about
I'd watch it a lot more.
The ball would also go such a long, long way away from where you were playing. So I quite like the idea that
you have to move your
this massive ball just being like 2.5 miles away from the stadium.
This is a podcast in which two friends talk about the pleasures, absurdities, and imperfections of being human. I'm Simon Ellis.
And I'm Lee Miller. Welcome to Midlifing. Hello. Hiya, how are you?
Nice to hear your voice.
Always nice to hear your voice. It's always nice to hear your voice. You're like a little ray of sunshine. You're like a little sunbeam. You cheer up my day, you bugger. you cracker. I'm sorry. I've got the giggles today.
You seem to have, I seem to remember last week you had that funny laugh. It seems like you've retained that laugh. What the hell, did Malta do that to you or something? Has it become a fixed
It's all the
thing?
cocktails. It's all the cocktails. It's the joy, the fun, the laughter, the
warm
sun.
weather.
It's the sun on my skin. It's the length and the grease. Don't know what.
Do you know this morning, the grease?
I was trying to do a quote from a play called Road by Jim Cartwright, and he's talking about chips, and he goes, "It's the length and the depth and the lack of grease," and I just said it's the length and the grease, which is completely wrong, and it sounds odd, but then actually so does it's the length and the depth and the lack of grease. Now that I think about it,
It really does. The lack of grease.
He also said it's like walking through meat in high heels. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that a beautiful
to do
image?
with what? What is like eating
just
fish
like
and chips?
life. No, life is like walking through meat in high heels. Oh, it's beautiful.
The fish and chips so hot and salty. I've never quite got fish and chips in this country the same way as I have done in Australia and New Zealand. But that's
Are
a
the fish and
different
chips
story.
better in
I think
Australia
they are.
and New Zealand?
I think they are. I think that if you were to do some kind of double-blind test which involved flying halfway around the world with a sample, that you would find that they are much nicer.
Yeah.
Even at just the local chippy, local fish and chip shop in New Zealand, yeah. I think it's partly... I don't know.
I'm just going to gently draw your attention to Fish Chaos and how much fun you had there.
Where was Fish Chaos? Oh, I don't think... Oh, yeah, that was good.
That was good.
I've also had very good fish and chips right up in the northeast, north of Newcastle, right up there, just under the border, right on the coast.
Anik, that kind of place.
I can't remember the name. It's where all the what are those puffins hang out.
Holy Island.
Can't remember the name of the town. Anyway.
Berwick.
What?
I was just saying Berwick, and that's
No,
not. That's the other
it's
side
when
of the country.
it's the time I got, I was scuba diving and had I ascended too quickly. I had an uncontrolled ascent and then was put in was driven down to Hull and was put in a
Hyperbaric chamber.
hyperbaric chamber overnight for 12 hours and then had to go again in the morning. So I spent a night in hospital and then was driven down by an ambulance from Hull to my home. Go to the
Shitting hell.
NHS.
Can I ask a
Yeah.
question? Good old NHS. I was talking about the NHS recently. Who was I talking to the NHS about?
I don't know. I'm not privy to your other conversations.
But I was saying how good it was. And I was saying how we get into a habit of, a deficit model where we're just talking about how shit things are, and actually Bob's had some surgery recently. The quality of care has been fucking superb. Her surgeon is just awesome. The follow-on was brilliant. It's like textbook gorgeousness. Anyway, that's a side issue.
No,
I want to
yeah,
go
it's,
back to hyperbolic.
Hyperbole. That's the last 172 episodes.
I want to go into a hyperbolic chamber. Oh, that was me at the Houses of Parliament.
Up and down. Oh, that's a parabolic chamber. God.
Hyperbolic chamber, Houses of Parliament. Parabolic chamber, up and down. Hyperbaric chamber. I didn't know. What happened? Why did you have an uncontrolled ascent?
Well, I mean, this was a few years ago now. This was definitely pre-pandemic because I think I dived just before the pandemic. I was in Malta, actually, just before the pandemic. And in fact, it was the same conference that you were at. And on the first day, the whole conference collapsed because of all the things that were just starting to happen due to COVID. Like the whole conference.
Of course, because it would have been March time, wouldn't it? Because they have it
Yeah,
near
it was March
Easter.
2020. It was very, very odd. And people running to get on planes, and it was so...
Oh, for fear of being stuck. But, I mean, that was the weird time, wasn't it? People thinking that they were going to not be able to be repatriated.
It was... Well, no one knew anything.
No, exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
Boris Johnson in particular.
Oh, please don't.
Sorry to sully this podcast with his name.
Yeah, no. Anyway, hyperbolic.
Hyperbaric chamber. So an uncontrolled ascent just happens because you're generally, when you're scuba diving, you're controlling buoyancy, and you want to be neutrally buoyant, which means that you're not having to do anything to either to get yourself down, or that you're not resisting going up. And the state of being neutrally buoyant is as simple or as subtle as when you breathe in, you're taking in air, right? You become slightly positively buoyant, meaning you will go up a little bit, and then when you breathe out, you go down a little bit. And you get really sensitive to that, to buoyancy at that kind of degree. And so what tends to happen, like beginners will tend to often be negatively buoyant, meaning they'll have a little bit too much weight around their weight belt, so they'll just be sinking all the time and then working to stop themselves sinking, which of course means they use more oxygen, or more air, I should say, and it's tiring, etc. So yeah, neutrally buoyant was a thing. And what happened was I was deploying I forget what they call them. There's basically it's a thing which shoots up to the surface to show you where you are.
Yeah.
And it's quite tricky to maintain your buoyancy while you're doing all this stuff. You're putting air into this thing which shoots up to the surface. And I lost track of where I was. And then as you get less deep, you start to shoot up, like you go up very quickly. And those uncontrolled ascents, of course, are how you get the bends. You get pretty sick.
You do.
Yeah.
And that's what really hurts, because you do it to yourself. Just you and no one else. That's Radiohead from the Bends. There we go. Just putting that into context for you. Oh my God, that sounds horrid. And then you had to go, but you got a nice.
And I had no symptoms. I had no symptoms. Oh, maybe I think I had a little thing in my finger. Like, it's really common to get a little, because it's basic. I think it's nitrogen. I can't remember that. You get in your joints, and I had a little bit of soreness in my finger, which I think was from something completely unrelated to diving. But I had to, and so I spent the whole. It was really very frustrating and very boring. But the hyperbaric chamber itself was fascinating, because you just, the thing, your food would come down this little thing, and then it was very strange. But yeah, it was like being at pressure.
Yeah, gosh.
And then you would go effectively, yeah, I know. Anyway, that's not what I wanted to talk about.
No, what did you want to talk about?
I wanted to talk about,
Say it.
well, I had I'm going to say the misfortune.
Uh-oh.
Oh, I watched a film, well, I'm still in the process of watching the film because it's pretty hard, yakka, called The Cleaners. Have you heard of this film?
No, I don't believe I have.
It's about Lee. I don't know whether we should bring this. I'm gonna raise it because I think it is worth. There's something in there worth talking about, and it's a film about content moderation online.
Oh, okay. It's a documentary film.
Yes.
I think I may
And there's another one called Field of Vision: The Moderators.
I think I might. I've definitely seen a documentary film about this, but talk to me more.
And a lot of it's a lot of content moderation. So just in case people don't know what content moderation is, it sort of says it on the tin. But because apparently lots of things get posted to the internet which are really, really nasty, and so social media companies, so the people that basically show us what we think we ought to be looking at, employ these businesses who employ people very cheaply. And a lot happens in the Philippines. There's a lot of content moderation happens in the Philippines. And they interview, in early stages of the documentary, this is a PBS documentary, by the way, a public broadcasting system, American PBS documentary. They interview a young man whose job, he describes himself as kind of the police of the internet. It's really interesting, actually. But he has to look at, the goal is to look at 25,000 photographs a day. And I think I've also, done quite a lot of reading about content moderation, just out of curiosity, really. But it's they come out with symptoms of post-traumatic stress because of what they're watching. And I guess I'm bringing this up. I don't know why I'm bringing it up, but I think a couple of weeks ago we talked a little bit about individualism. We touched on individualism, and it made me think as I was watching this film that what it is about the desire to put something online or to witness something which is shocking or to somehow shock other people, that there's something about being divorced from being in relationship to other people. Like, I don't know what it is. I mean, I can understand maybe the kind of acts of violence. I can't, but I can imagine understanding of acts of violence against animals, right? I don't like to think about it, and some of the worst things described in some of the books I've read are about violence against animals. It's just truly shocking. But there's something about the violence against other humans thing. Anyway, I'm rabbiting on here, and I don't quite know my point, except to say, what do you think of all this, and how is it that we got to this?
I mean, we got to this the moment that we were able to have superpowered computers with incredible cameras in our pockets. And the moment, that are also attached to a world wide web of data storage and sharing. And I think the moment you give somebody that technology, the first thing they do is say, "Ooh, can I film somebody fucking with it?" And when they go, "Yep, you can do that," brilliant. Can I film somebody being hurt? Yeah. And I think it's because we are... A couple of weeks ago, maybe last week, I said that we were big daft animals. I think it comes down to that, Simon. I think
so. It's just that we've just been given the technology that makes it
just
possible to film those
toys that allow us to do what that rubbernecking at car crashes. Whenever it always strikes me when I'm driving on a motorway and there's a traffic jam. It's you play that game. It's like, so is the accident on this side of the road, or is it on the other side of the road.
Oh, right. I have no experience of that in this country, of course, because I'm never on the roads.
And it's 50-50 because if there's an accident up ahead, obviously that will have reduced the it's like an arterial flow. There will be a blockage, and
Sure.
you've got the same number of cars that have to move through a smaller aperture. Okay, makes perfect sense why it would slow down. So you understand that that's a thing. But the number of times I've been in traffic jams and I think, oh, there must be a crash ahead. And sure enough, there is, on the other side of the road. And the reason the traffic jam has happened, and there's like computer models about this, that braking is what causes traffic jams. So it's just
You heard it here on Midliving. Just never brake. If you're in a car,
well,
just
no.
don't brake.
No. What I mean is it's inconsistent and inconsiderate braking. So basically, the reason that we have traffic jams is because people drive too close to the cars in front of them. They don't honour the 3-car distance that is required of them.
Yeah, that's in Australia. That's called the 2-second rule. Only a fool would break the 2-second rule.
Yeah, and I'm sure that despite there being a poem, in Australia, people still broke the 2-second rule.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they sure do.
Yeah, so it's particularly...
It's also a long distance when you count a car going past a point. You go 0, 1, 2.
Yeah.
It's a long way in a car.
Yeah. It's 3 car lengths is a modest amount.
Yeah.
I think you know that I now drive an electric vehicle.
I do. I've forgotten, of course. It doesn't come up a lot when I think about you, but now that you've brought it up again, it's right there and I'm ready to hear more.
Well, I had some people in the electric vehicle recently due to...
Why are you calling it that?
Vehicle.
Oh, you're trying to... Yes, you're
I'm trying to say vehicle.
It. Yeah.
So there were some... I mean, in the southwest at the minute, there's stuff happening with the trains in terms of there's bus replacement services, which are always a joy. But when you throw a bus replacement here, when you throw a bus replacement journey into the mix and include a landslip for the bit of the train track that is working, and landslips are relatively regular occurrences in a wet and hilly place.
Yeah, it's been so wet.
Oh God, it's been so wet. I mean, I think hasn't it been like one of the greyest winters on record?
Yeah, it's finally got under my skin, but I think we talked about that weeks and weeks ago.
Yeah, I was going to say it hasn't finally got under your skin, Simon. It's been under your skin for a while. Anyway, I had people in the car because I drove in. I can't rely on trains if I want to go to work. That's not true. I can rely on trains if I don't have a morning appointment and I'm okay about getting there at lunchtime. Despite the fact that I live around about 65, 70 miles away from my place of work, not a massive distance. It will take me 2.5 hours on a train.
I mean, I don't think talk about rabbit holes. I'd never heard of the term bus replacement service until I came to the UK. It was a foreign. I'd never heard of it. Yeah. I'd never heard of it.
Welcome to privatisation.
Oh well, yeah. We should not talk about just how bad trains have become in this country because it really is boring. But wow, is it broken?
Yeah, it's so broken, and it's so. I mean, it is. If Bob wanted to take. And this is a 3-hour, 20-minute train journey. If Bob wanted to London from where we live, and in order to get to work by 10:30, she has to pay £370.
Yep.
It's the definition of insane. And if you want to talk about how do we stop the global climate crisis,
this is something we're not talking about, by the way.
No, it's not. But it feels like once you start to go, you know what? It takes so long to get from, let's say, the southwest to the northeast on a train. I mean, like 13 hours, so long, and it is so ruinously expensive. It's dead easy to just go, yeah,
Take the
actually,
car.
oh, fuck that. I'm going to get a plane.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean, Simon? It is so expensive, and it takes so because I can understand people going, no, I'm going to fly. We're not talking about this. EV, electrical vehicle.
Great.
That's okay. I'm working backwards. I had people in the car.
Thank God you do that, because seriously, gone. I have no idea how we got onto trains, but I'm back with you now.
And the car, I have it set at the highest sensor for the highest sensitivity for front collision. So it automatically brakes.
You can change sensitivities.
Yeah. You can switch it off if you want, but I don't switch it off. The only thing I switch off in terms of the safety features is the lane change assist, because what it does is it doesn't just beep; it jerks the wheel to pull you back into the centre.
It must be a bit terrifying.
It is terrifying, and then what I found is that I overcorrected and I found it more dangerous. So I always have to switch off the lane disable thing.
So this is machine learning based stuff it's doing.
Yeah, it's based upon
cameras. It's got cameras pointing outwards.
It's got cameras pointing in 360 degree like a skirt of cameras all the way around it.
Wow. It's basically it's like driving in a Vision Pro, isn't it? An Apple Vision Pro.
Yeah, I guess. Although I don't have to put it on my head, I can just climb inside it, which is better.
Yes, and hopefully it lasts more than 2 hours.
Well, it depends on how far I'm going and the charge. Yeah, it is an electric car when all said and done. But it also doesn't.
Can you wear a spare battery pack, just in case?
No, what I do is I carry I carry a diesel generator in the boot, and I just like switch that on and then plug it in, and so it's still clean.
Really?
It's still...
Do you really?
Of course I don't. That would be the most insane thing in the world to
I was going, is there such a thing? I thought you were going to say you carry one of those little iPhone battery packs and you plug that in.
That's what I do.
You get 30 seconds more out of it.
Exactly. Okay. Oh, look, I can get another 15 yards.
Look, I get up. That's it.
But the people...
Just carry around 40 of them. Just plugging.
Just enough to parallel park. But the people in the car with me, the person in the front seat,
the point of the story,
yeah, sort of slammed their foot into the footwell as a car was in front of me, and they were effectively trying to brake for me. You know that thing where nervous drivers. And so I said, okay, so I'm just going to tell you something. It automatically brakes, so you can just relax. Even if you think I'm a shit driver, the car will brake. It's fine. And he really chilled. He really chilled out. It was quite fascinating. But
so he prefers AI to you, basically.
I mean, I think he trusts it more, which is probably wise. After all, why wouldn't you? Intemperate braking is what I was talking about, because people drive too far. And obviously my car is sort of set for 3-car distances and all that sort of gubbins. Intemperate braking creates traffic jams, and if you have slowed down to have a gawk at a car crash on the other side of the road, you can set off tailbacks of multiple miles long. So it's the same thing.
That's basically chaos theory, isn't it? It's a butterfly.
It's a butterfly, but it's to go back to your question about content moderation and humans. I think we are gross.
But I think the difference, though, is that I think you're talking about the desire to look at something. I'm curious about the desire to make something. You're effectively producing content, right? That's, and it might be beheadings in Syria, it might be whatever it is that you're taking films or photographs of. There's something. Yeah, so I guess there's a difference there, and I'm with you on what you're describing, but I'm trying to get at the desire to go. I know, there's a man beating a baby seal with a club. I'm going to film that and put that online, or I'm the man beating the seal to death.
Yeah,
and maybe it's just not about. It's about something about violence or that kind of a kind of attitude to the world that is, this world is mine to do whatever it is that I want to do, which I really struggle with. I struggle to understand it, that aspect of being human.
I think the wrong two people are having this conversation.
Right, because you don't understand it either.
I have no clue. I mean, I feel bad if I step on Jeff's toes.
It does, I mean, maybe we should just stop here really, but it does make me, I first built my website in 1997, maybe it was 96, 97 was the first time I started my website. And that was hand coding HTML with a bit of CSS, cascading style sheets. And I can only describe my memory of the internet at that point as almost like a bizarre time of innocence. It's hard to believe what the internet was and what it has become if you weren't alive then. It's extraordinary how it's such a festering shithole of crap and amazing beauty and possibility, and it's all of those things.
I mean, it's people, innit?